Okay, the time is now 6:01. I call to order this October 9th, 2025 regular meeting of Borough Council. We'll begin with a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance led by the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. So tonight I'm going to go a little different from my previous moments of silence that I've focused on. I usually try to draw attention to something important in the world today. Often it's been mass shootings, unfortunately, and sadly I could give so many examples of just that in the past month, but I'm not going to. Because sometimes some of the best things that we can do is take a break from the bleak and focus on joy. It's not ignoring everything that's going on around you, but trying to give you time for joy gives you the strength to face those evils when you have to. So many things this month bring me so much joy. My favorite Carlisle event is in 2 weeks, and that is the Halloween parade. Through my chats with students at Dickinson who live in other states, I have learned that Halloween parades are not things in lots of other places. So I am extra glad Pennsylvania knows what is important. I am super busy with 2 jobs, but I am so driven and energized to create a bike float every waking moment. I'm not doing some sort of work job. It's not the most amazing entry, but I find joy in every single minute crafting, honing my inner Jim Henson, hot gluing and infusing hope and chaos into this silly creation. The reason I put so much effort into it is because it's all about community. I get to see the faces of what seems to be like every person in Carlisle, the excitement on kids' faces, the goosebumps I feel when I hear the marching band. Trick or Treat Night is my favorite. It is, in my mind, is the most community-oriented event of the year. There is no other night or day that you can walk up to every house in your neighborhood and just knock on the door and have a shared moment of joy through treats and child wonder and a smile and whimsy. I love the decorations the DCA put up. I love the Carlisle Theater creating a whole week of Halloween fun. I did sponsor The Witch on October 29th, by the way, so please go. Um, I love being able to live in this town and be a tiny part of the immense joy that erupts from the time and effort and love poured into this all. So tonight, I'm not asking you to participate in a moment of silence. I just hope you all embrace the joy that finds you each and every day. And I'll finish with a tiny bit of wisdom from the glorious poet, Mary Oliver. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps it perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. And now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, the roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Landis.
Here.
Ms. Mellon.
Here.
Ms. Perry.
Here.
Ms. Schaub.
Here.
Mr. Stuckey.
Here.
Mayor Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Pimentel.
Here.
Let's try Councilor Roos one more time. Jackie, can you hear us?
Sorry, yeah, I think Patricia didn't have her microphone on, but I am here.
Great. Well, then we're going to start with you. I'll need a motion to allow Councilor Roos to attend by video conference.
So moved.
A motion by Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mellon. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much for allowing me to attend by Zoom as I finish up preparing my mom's house to sell, and I appreciate all your patience as I've been sort of dealing with this family crisis.
Yeah, of course, Jackie. We're very, very sorry that you're going through that right now.
Thank you.
I was going to say before I get started here that was the Deputy Mayor's final moment of silence, and she didn't do a moment of silence. She'll be leaving us at the end of this year due to term limits, and that was about the most appropriate Brenda type of moment of silence that I think I've ever seen. So It was great. We'll begin with opportunity for citizens and visitors to be heard. We have a presentation scheduled beforehand, so Beth Kemp, if you'd like to take the podium. And actually, Beth, go ahead, go on up. I just remember one quick thing I need to do, but you can stay here. You can stay here. So every year for the past couple of years, we participate in Extra Mile Day, and so I'll do a proclamation typically this time of year, and so I'm presenting this Extra Mile Day 2025 in recognition of Community Cares. Beth didn't know I was doing this. I invited her here to give us an update on what Cares is all up to. And decided that I was going to surprise you with this. So, the proclamation reads: whereas Carlisle Borough is a community that acknowledges a special vibrancy exists when citizens go the extra mile through personal and collective effort, volunteerism, and service. Whereas Carlisle Borough is a community that chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations who go the extra mile to make a difference and uplift fellow members of their community. Whereas Carlisle Borough embraces the responsibility of meeting the needs and demands of our community by providing citizens with opportunities to voice their opinions and collaborate with borough government in meeting today's challenges efficiently, fairly, and economically. Whereas Community Cares, under the steadfast leadership of Executive Director Beth Kemp, has long served as a beacon of hope and compassion for unhoused neighbors in Carlisle and Cumberland County, demonstrating unwavering commitment to dignity, equity, and care through essential shelter support and pathways to stability. Whereas Carlisle Borough and Community Cares joined forces during the COVID-19 pandemic to meet the needs of our most vulnerable residents by providing safe shelter and hygiene resources at the Carlisle Borough Stewart Community Center as a temporary emergency shelter. Whereas the tireless efforts of Community Cares and Beth Kemp provide critical services to our most vulnerable residents and foster a community-wide understanding of their challenges while exemplifying the values of service, compassion, and civic responsibility that define Carlisle. Now, therefore, I, Sean M. Schultz, Mayor of Carlisle, Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim November 1, 2025, to be Extra Mile Day, recognizing Community Cares for their unwavering servant leadership in serving and strengthening our community by providing emergency shelter, resources, and supportive services to individuals and families at risk of or experiencing homelessness. I further call upon our community and the Carlisle region to recognize our responsibility to support Community Cares and the unhoused as our nation experiences an unprecedented rise in homelessness and a shortage of resources to meet basic needs such as housing, healthcare, employment, and income programming. And I'll add to Beth, I know the work that you do is probably very often rewarding and probably very often frustrating. Probably no more frustrating than you've been experiencing more recently. I know, and Councilor Mellon will always correct me on numbers, but I know countywide we're up about a third in homelessness. So that goes for the borough of Carlisle and throughout the county that you serve. And we had a chat the other day, and you asked me if the borough was still invested and behind Community Cares, and what did I tell you? I told you, of course we are. You're critical. So you provide a critical service to folks that we represent who may go unheard because they don't have the resources that many of us have to be able to attend meetings and be present. So thank you for everything that you do on behalf of us and the rest of our communities throughout Cumberland County.
Well, that was very kind. Thank you. Thank you all so very much. For maybe some who are not as familiar, I'm the Executive Director of Community Cares. Community Cares provides
multiple services, most significantly sheltering to those that don't have anywhere safe to be. We began about 21 years ago. We have utilized many different resources to provide as much support for as many individuals as we possibly can. We, over the course of our 21 years, have provided over close to 400,000 nights of sleep for people. And so we're very proud of that number. That number exemplifies, if we were unable to do that, where would they be? I'm so sorry, I'm going to find my notes real quick so I'm not lengthy. Just to give you a snapshot of where we're looking at for 2025 for Community Cares. Community Cares provides shelter for men, women, and children. Up until the pandemic, we did provide shelter here in Carlisle for families. We now provide that in the Shippensburg area, where they have private rooms and bathrooms, and we support currently. We downed our numbers some because we were really overwhelming ourselves with 17 families, so we're down to 12 families any given night. We also have an excellent partnership with WellSpan Health. We do recuperative care beds for individuals who would otherwise recover from surgeries or active illnesses, treatments. They would recover possibly in our shelter here in Carlisle. We're able to provide them private beds and 3 meals during their recovery time. Here in Carlisle, we do provide men and women shelter. We utilize St. Paul's Church since towards the end of the pandemic. We were able to have a long-term agreement with them where we no longer have to shift every month to a new location. We no longer have to set up and tear down. And I'm very proud to say only just a month ago, we finally, if any of you are familiar with how we started and how we had been pre-COVID, are able to provide full beds for everyone to sleep on. No longer cots, no longer mats on the floor. Everyone has a private space. So I'm proud of that. Any given night, we're providing shelter at St. Paul's for 45 approximate individuals. We worked with this year alone with 320 individuals. That's 278 households that were living unsheltered at some point in Cumberland County. We connected with them in some way, provided some measure of support. We have housed so far this year 71 households. That's 254 individuals in the family shelter. Men and Women's Shelter, we have supported 311 individuals. That's 280 households. Through our recuperative care, we have helped 43 individuals at 41 households. During our winter shelter, just the top of this year, not including what's to come the rest of this year, we supported 180 individuals with a place to stay out of the cold elements. We averaged about 38 men and women every night. That's a sharp increase from the years past, which was about 15. And I assume from our numbers year to date this year have increased significantly, that we'll see a similar number this year. Of those total people, 115 were children, 32 were veterans, 113 were survivors of domestic violence, and 93 were 60 plus years old, which is the largest growing population of homelessness currently. They believe by the year 2030, we will have triple the size of senior homelessness, which they're calling the Great Wave, because we're seeing more and more people being priced out of housing. One of the programs that we included this year, we only just received funding for it in June. We're pretty excited about it and hopeful for it. We've always done what's called diversion. We've always used whatever resources we can. If we can help communicate with you, communicate with your family members, friends, maybe a place that you've stayed at before, and we can negotiate with them to let you stay a little longer while we work on employment or we work on housing options. We call that diversion, but we got specific money set aside for it. It is a little tricky, but we have been able to help, of the 86 diversions that we've attempted, we have a 29% success rate. That's actually very high, meaning they do not have to enter the homeless system. They don't become street homeless. They don't become part of our shelter system. We have been able to help many individuals. I've spoken to sisters. Could you let your sister stay just a few more weeks till we help with employment? I've spoken with parents, how we help get their children maybe some services that they need. We've spoke with different places and said if we can pay for your electric bill for 2 days, because we cannot pay private citizens to house people with our grant funding, but we can pay your electric bill. We could buy some groceries so that we can help offset the cost of that individual in your home. We can potentially provide a bus ticket so you can be connected with family. And one particular story, we connected with a family who, husband and wife. He has been the breadwinner of the family for years. They both have individual vehicles and they were doing fine until he suddenly became very ill, which caused his kidney functions to completely stop functioning for him, or almost completely, causing him to be on dialysis significant, large amounts of time, every other day, several times a week, and he could no longer work. And I don't know if any of you have experienced or seen healthcare trauma that comes into a home when you think you got it, because if you just, you can usually make it up with the next paycheck if you miss this week. So maybe your 2 paychecks and you'll be okay. Well, they went through that and they weren't okay. And he continued to not be able to work, and they continued to do what they could. Proud people as they were, like a lot of us can be. Oh, it's going to get better. I'm going to fix this. I don't need to tell anyone. Who do I tell? I don't actually have any friends around here. Who could even help me? Didn't reach out to anyone until they found themselves completely in their car, had lost everything, selling stuff out of their storage unit just to be able to eat, till we connected with them. So we connected with them. We found a way to talk with them about family members and support that he may have. We've originally identified his brother in Alabama. We talked it through. Ultimately, that fell through. We identified his sister in Las Vegas. Ultimately, she said that would be great. She would allow him to come there, get in-home dialysis, while he was then would make him eligible to be on the transplant list, because without stability, you can't get a transplant. And so we were able to combine forces with another agency, because when we totaled out 2 vehicles driving over to Las Vegas over the course of 3 days with 2 hotels, it was $1,300 for gas mainly. So we were able to combine resources to be able to help them do that. They just sent me a picture yesterday. He's been able to get reconnected in dialysis, get everything working, and they're very hopeful to get on that transplant list very soon so that he can get that completed. The borough has reached out to us. Walmart was asking everyone to leave property. I happened to be just really nearby, stopped by. We had a 71-year-old woman who seemingly had been catfished. Some gentleman said, come here, you can stay with me, it'll be great for you. She'd been in her vehicle for a week with her 2 cats, had no resources, nowhere to go. Thankfully, I am aware of another person who loves cats, and she was willing to let her come to her property and stay. So we try. We're not the success that we like to be, but we're very hopeful that each individual that we meet will recognize that there are resources for them to take a shower, to do laundry, to provide themselves some personal dignity, to get resources for food, get resources for hygiene. Our prevention work, we also help with eviction prevention. We've helped quite a few households avoid becoming homeless due to that, or help someone who is homeless get into a place quicker than they would have. So I want to thank you, Carlisle Borough, all of you, for allowing us to participate in the work that we do with the people of our community that don't always recognize they have a need or don't want to share their need. But we're so proud to be able to be there when they're ready to say, I need help. So thank you so much for recognizing what Community Cares does.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that update. I thought you were going to walk straight out the back. Just, drop the mic and leave. Next is citizens to be heard. So this is an opportunity for anybody who wants to be heard on any topic of borough business. If you are here for the ordinance or the end of the agenda, we'll have separate comment for that because I imagine a number of you are probably here for that item. But if you're here for any other issue, please come up to the podium. We'll need your name and address, and then we'll hear your up to 5 minutes of comment. Is there anybody who'd like to provide comment? No. Stephanie, do we have anybody by Zoom? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. This is a list of routine items that do not appear to be controversial in nature and which probably do not require additional discussion. They can be acted on by one motion in their current form. If discussion is desired on any particular item, any member of council or the public may request the item be removed from the consent agenda, and that item will be considered separately. Is there any member of council requesting an item be considered separately? Any member of the public? And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mellon. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. So that takes care of all the pages through page 3 on the agenda, if you're following along, and brings us to the regular agenda. There are no table continued and recurring items. Under my report, I already took care of the proclamation, and we'll move on to reports from committees, budget and finance.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. I have 2 items this evening. Make the motion that Borough Council approve a quote of $42,870 from Hinton and Associates, Inc. for the purchase and installation of a replacement Borough Hall server as part of the Borough's Information Technology Maintenance Program, subject to satisfactory review and approval by the Borough Solicitor.
Deputy Mayor Landis makes a motion to approve quote $42,870 from Hinton and Associates for the purchase and installation of a replacement Borough Hall server. I will second that motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And my second item, I make the motion that Borough Council authorize the Borough Manager to execute a 4-year contract for the supply of 100% renewable electricity with the lowest qualified bidder, locking in the rate based on market conditions on Friday, October 10th, 2025. This authorization is contingent upon final review and approval by the Mayor and Borough Solicitor.
Deputy Mayor Landis makes a motion to authorize the Borough Manager to execute a 4-year contract for the supply of 100% renewable electricity with the lowest qualified bidder. I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And that completes my report.
Okay, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item this evening. I move that Borough Council award the total unit price contract for the downtown traffic signal equipment upgrade project to the lowest responsive bidder, Her Signal and Lighting Company Incorporated of Grantville, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $386,577, pending receipt of the bonds and insurances required for the project.
Councilor Stubbe makes a motion to award the total unit price contract for the downtown traffic signal equipment upgrade project to the lowest responsive bidder, Her Signal and Lighting Company of Grantville, Pennsylvania. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Shiles. Is there any discussion? Just note, I this week told somebody how expensive traffic signals are, and there you go. There's no other discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And that concludes the Public Works Committee report this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Stubbe. Next is sustainable community and economic planning. Before we jump into that, I'm just going to mention. I know we've I think generally been pretty successful getting through issues like this with a high degree of civility. In fact, was it now two meetings ago when we discussed this issue? My daughter was sitting over here in the corner because I didn't have a sitter, and I was proud of everybody generally remaining civil through the discussion. We'll of course expect the same of the good people of Carlisle, and I do want to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping too far ahead. That's okay. I jumped too far ahead on this one.
Should we preface what this one is?
Yeah, we can. I jumped a little bit ahead on the agenda. So why don't you go ahead, Mitch, and then I'll finish what I was going
Sure.
to say once we
I
get a little
didn't
further.
know if the demolition
That's the
ordinance
glasses
was
going
that,
on and off are not helping.
that's significant, but you know,
I saw ordinance and I just started going.
that's okay. I guess so. We have I've got two options on my agenda for tonight. One is that we can consider enacting this demolition ordinance, or that we can consider drafting and advertising a demolition ordinance. And I guess, should we start with the discussion, or should we?
Yeah, we can, because we received a request that as we have in the past from the real estate collaborative, that we hold off on this until they've settled into their phase 2 environmental. That got delayed due to some delays at the federal level, and they're requesting just a further delay. So I request, since we've been trying to work with them on this and that project, that we just delay this further and move ahead with the second option we have here under this item, if everybody's satisfied with that. And of course, Councilor Shiles is satisfied to make that as a motion.
So this will get pushed back to November. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess so. We'll move this to November then. So Borough Council may consider drafting and advertising an ordinance amending the code of the Borough of Carlisle, Chapter 183, Property Maintenance, establishing procedures and requirements for the demolition of buildings and structures in the urban mixed-use district, to be considered for enactment at the regularly scheduled November 13th, 2025 council meeting, or at a later council meeting selected by council.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to have the drafting and advertising of ordinance amending the Code of the Borough of Carlisle, Chapter 183, Property Maintenance, establishing procedures and requirements for the demolition of buildings and structures in the urban mixed-use district, to be considered for enactment at the regularly scheduled November 13th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Deputy Mayor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. And still, thank you, everybody, for staying civil on that very controversial item.
Very good.
Okay. Next is new business, but I'm going to shift this around. We'll put new business after the reports from council members and staff. And now we'll move on to the ordinance that I think most folks are up here. The community, I call it the community trust ordinance, because I'm not going to go through the entire title. And again, I know this issue has been controversial for folks. I expect, as I said, that we'll have a good civil discussion over this item. And before we jump into it, what I'm going to read, some initial thoughts that I just kind of want to square things away here and make sure it's understood, at least how I view this resolution or ordinance that we would be either acting on, if it's the resolution tonight, or in the case of the ordinance, acting on to have it advertised and considered at our November meeting. So we're considering the Carlisle Community Trust and Local Autonomy Ordinance. I want to take this moment to clarify what the ordinance does, or the resolution, and importantly, what they do not do. The ordinance and resolution do not designate Carlisle as a sanctuary city. That label is often misunderstood and misused and is not truly defined. What this ordinance does is affirm our commitment to local governance, community trust, and the efficient use of borough resources, not to shielding individuals from the consequences of criminal behavior, as some have suggested. And I'll explain. First, our police department already does not engage in immigration enforcement. Officers do not ask about immigration status unless it is directly relevant to a criminal investigation. This is not a new policy, it's a long-standing practice. Second, at the direction of the borough manager, a 5-year review of police practices was conducted. That review found only one incident in which immigration status was requested. That case involved a minor, as was discussed by the chief last week, and the circumstances were unique and required careful consideration. This demonstrates that our department already exercises discretion and restraint in this area. Third, the ordinance does not prohibit the arrest or detention of undocumented individuals who commit crimes within our jurisdiction. If someone violates state or local laws, they will be held accountable regardless of their immigration status or citizen status for that matter. If our police officers have probable cause to arrest, they will do so, whether the individual is a citizen, a documented immigrant, or an undocumented immigrant. They will face the consequences of their actions. And if they are incarcerated, state or county corrections officials, not our local police, may contact federal immigration authorities as part of their own procedures. As a friend of mine once said, if you're going to break a law, only break one at a time. This ordinance simply formalizes what we already do. Focus our local resources on local priorities, not federal civil immigration enforcement. It ensures that our borough agents do not act on civil detainer requests or administrative warrants unless required by a judicial warrant or a court order. It also affirms our home rule authority under the Pennsylvania Constitution, state statute, and our charter to govern our own affairs. So for those who question why we get involved in federal issues, that's exactly the opposite of what we're doing here. We're not getting involved in federal issues. Those issues and enforcement are for the federal government. Finally, for those concerned about criminal behavior among undocumented immigrants, I want to share a fact supported by multiple studies. Undocumented immigrants have offense rates that are about half those of natural-born citizens. Just as we argue in the context of gun control, or some argue in the context of gun control, that we already have laws to address criminal acts, the same applies here. We have state and local laws to prosecute crimes, and we enforce them. This ordinance is designed to be about trust, efficiency, and local control. It reflects Carlisle's values as a welcoming and livable community, and it ensures that all residents, regardless of background, feel safe, engaging with borough services and law enforcement. And so, although I said ordinance throughout most of that, it applies the same to the resolution that has the same terms. Councilor Schatz, would you like to provide any comment? I'm just going to kind of run down because we have both a resolution and ordinance.
I guess
see where everybody stands.
Stated before that I'm in favor of the ordinance, and I haven't changed my mind. So.
Yeah. Unless anybody wants to just kind of, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you right on the spot at the beginning. And then, does anybody want to wait and hear public comment? And then I'm just trying to figure out where we're going to go on these two items because it won't make any sense to pass both of them. Yeah. You'd like to say? Okay. Well, we'll run through. Does anybody else want to say something before we hear public comment? Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Mellon.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So considering whether or not the borough should adopt this ordinance forces the borough and its staff to confront some difficult questions, including whether the ordinance we're debating is best for the borough. As we've seen over the previous meeting, this has been a challenging issue to discuss, and it has been just as challenging, maybe more so, for our staff and our police officers. I trust our staff leadership and our police officers to do the best job that they can in a dynamic and varied environment. The statement that we provided at our September meeting outlines those things that the borough does not do and those things we already do, and the manner in which we expect our employees to engage with immigration enforcement. They're not aspirational goals. They're concrete expectations. I want us to continue to work with the manager's office to make sure that all employees have the same understanding. When we fall short, I expect that leadership will engage in appropriate corrective action, whether that means training or accountability measures or some other recommendation. With respect to the need for an ordinance to bolster these expectations, I would say that some of our citizens feel very passionately that this is the best solution, while others believe that it inserts Carlisle into a national debate when we should be tending to our own expectations. No one, not a single person that I have spoken to, whether they support the adoption of the ordinance or not, is concerned with anything other than supporting the borough, our employees, and the immigrant community. While we'd have separate ways of getting there, I'm proud that there's no difference between us regarding the concern that the community has for all its residents. That being said, While many of you here have spoken in past meetings, have expressed enthusiastic support for this ordinance, the many conversations that I have had with borough residents outside these walls after the past few months tell me that there is also a large number who oppose it. Some for the same reasons I've already expressed, concerning the need to avoid shining a spotlight on those most vulnerable and the probability of retaliatory action. So for this reason, I do not support a vote to move forward with the ordinance at this time. Rather, I encourage those citizens most passionate on this issue to take advantage of the means of referendum provided by Carlisle's Home Rule Charter, specifically laid out in Article 7, which outlines the process by which borough residents who are registered voters may file a petition to place a referendum on the ballot. This is a complex and divisive issue, and I feel really strongly that it should be put to all of the voters of this borough to decide.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Anyone else who wanted to provide any comment before public comment? Okay, then we'll hear public comment on this item. Anybody? Okay, I'll come on up to the podium.
My name is Dodie Wise. I live at 241 West Ridge Street in Carlisle. Good evening, good tax-paying citizens of Carlisle. I'm a Carlilian, born and raised here. Born at the old Carlisle Hospital on Parker Street, baptized, confirmed at the United Church of Christ on Pitt Street. Both my grandfathers are business owners. One owned Wilson's Drugstore right beside the Carlisle Theater. My other grandfather started Henry and Wise Farm Machinery, which turned into Marty's Auto Sales on North Street. For over 68 years, my grandfather, my father, and myself ran that business. I truly love Carlisle and a place where my family's lived for generations. I served 20 years in the United States Air Force. After being stationed all over the world, I knew Carlisle was a place for me to move back to. There was never a question. Being raised in a small town is a great place to live in Carlisle. I moved back here after serving in the military in '96 to help take care of my families, my grandparents, my parents who are gone, and Carlisle had all the resources I needed to care for my family. I also belong to many nonprofits, the Elks, the Order of the Eastern Star, and I'm a Rotarian of the Rotary Club of Carlisle Sunrise. I'm very involved in the community, and there's a lot of nonprofits in Carlisle. If you add them up, the amount of nonprofits versus citizens is like one nonprofit to 11 people in Carlisle. We do a great job helping people in need and help those to become citizens if the need arises. The Exchange Club is one of those nonprofits. I live on a street in Carlisle that's like the United Nations. I get along with everyone. If there's a safety issue, all I have to do is call the Carlisle Police Department. I've actually called them 3 times in the last month for a disturbance. Every time they come out, they're great, wonderful people, and they're awesome. I thank you. I'm not in fear of where I live in Carlisle, and I don't ask the people on my street, are you a citizen or not? We live among each other, and I contribute to this town time, money, energy through many nonprofits as a retired veteran. As a Rotarian, we have a 4-way test oath. It goes like this. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? I believe the resolution ordinance don't meet that criteria. I'm not in support of the resolution or ordinance that will make us engage in any type of activity where the police are not asked to help federal law enforcement and go against the law of the land. We all need to abide by the laws that are set in the United States and in our county and our town. We're not Philadelphia, we're not Pittsburgh. We're the home of the hot cheese dog. We're a small town we love to love. And if you think that it's not going to affect the citizens doing this resolution or ordinance, it will. It'll affect business. You know, look in the long haul, the long sphere, look out over everybody. You know, Mr. Spock said, he said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And Churchill said, some people dream of success while others wake up and work hard at it. God bless this town of Carlisle.
Thank you. Yeah.
Should I wait for this? Okay. Good evening. My name is Devin Spiva. I live at 106 Southwest Street. I ask that the City Council begin the steps to passing the ordinance. And the reason I ask that is that we are lucky that people who immigrated here chose to live here. We are lucky that people choose to stay in Carlisle, that they come here. We're lucky that people at my law school at Penn State Dickinson come in from other countries to get a law license to practice here in the United States. And I understand and I appreciate the council and the concern of injecting ourselves in a debate which we did not start. I understand the fear and I understand that you all are under immense pressure. But so is our immigrant community. They also did not ask for the fear, for the pressure. What they are asking for is for a city that embraces them. And it's not just undocumented immigrants. The Supreme Court has said that racial profiling can be used to find people and question them on their immigration status. It's the violation of due process, and I understand this ordinance doesn't do everything. I understand that it doesn't go so far as to implement a law. But what it does do is it shows the commitment of Carlisle to everyone who lives within its borders. Every single person who lives within Carlisle is shown that they are valued. In 2005, the city of Allentown passed the first anti-discrimination ordinance to protect people like me, part of the LGBTQ community. They did that before it was popular to do, before same-sex marriage was legalized. It was faced with litigation, it was faced with challenges, and it was upheld. Allentown had the courage to take the first step at that time. Carlisle can have the courage to take the first step at this time. And Carlisle is not alone in this battle. Carlisle is not the first one to introduce these ordinances. And while this ordinance doesn't go so far as ordinances passed in the city of Chicago or ordinances that may be passed in other cities that have a little bit more leeway, such as the city of Philadelphia with its first city status, passing the ordinance shows the commitment of this council to every person in Carlisle, whether they stand here and speak or they don't. And it saves time, it saves taxpayer money. It doesn't require a referendum that goes to an election, that requires poll workers, that requires people to get out and vote. And it doesn't invite big money interests to try and sway the vote one way or the other on the ordinance if it's brought as a citizen resolution, as a citizen referendum. I know I haven't had the opportunity to meet all of you. I've met a few of you. And I know that the reason you serve on this council is because you're good people, because you care about the city of Carlisle. But when good people do nothing, evil wins. And so I am asking that we begin this process and pass this ordinance, that we are not injecting ourselves into the debate. The reality is the federal government has already injected itself here. It has injected itself across Pennsylvania, and it is now on us to respond. And so I respectfully request that this council begin the process to pass the ordinance. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Smith. I live at 6 Buchanan Drive. I spoke last week as well. So I talked about last week my love for Carlisle because my family has been here from before it was the town of Carlisle. We built businesses here, started charities here, and the one thing my grandparents and their grandparents continue on have always taught them is to care about the community And it's not just by giving financial support or getting to say that you've been here a while, so you should have some status. It's by showing every day how much you appreciate and love every person around you, and for standing up for everyone who can't stand up for themselves. So it's frustrating to me, some of the sentiment I've been hearing, especially since in this past week, we have seen in Chicago alone the terrors that are happening. I mean, we are watching crimes perpetrated by untrained masked men being paid over $100,000 a year. I mean, that money could be going towards helping immigrants, helping people become citizens. Instead, that money is being taken out of the system to fund people like ICE. We have seen videos of ICE handcuffing children with zip ties, raiding citizens' apartments in the dead of nights with a helicopter, beating on people mercilessly. There have been people shot by real and rubber bullets just in this past week. I don't even want to start talking about all the hurt that is caused over the past 10 months. And people, we need to prevent that from happening here. Everyone should be, everyone should be outraged by this news that there are people being taken and drugged and out of their house. But instead, people are encouraging it because they think that there's some protection. They think that they are safe from ICE because they are white and they only speak English. That's not the case. We've seen that in Chicago again. There were police that were tear gassed by ICE. There was a priest praying on his knees in protest, and he was shot in the head with gas bullets by ICE. We cannot invite this into the town of Carlisle. The Party of Law and Order, who has a 34-count felon as their leader, is fixated on villainizing undocumented immigrants while emulating walking contradictions. Trump and Vance's wives are both immigrants. Musk, who had seemingly unrestrained access to the federal government, was he was working illegally as an immigrant for years in this country. That's totally okay? Unlawful entry to the United States is a Class B felony misdemeanor. That is the equivalent to trespassing in a national park. It is fine and 6 months. People should not be ripped apart from their families. The same party that talks about how important the nuclear family is wanting to also rip them apart. And wanting that to happen to this community, it hurts me to see the pain every day. Cumberland County alone, immigrants bring in $660 million in taxes. They hold $1.8 billion in spending power. That's money that we will be pushing away. I see no reason why we should be fighting against this. We will keep fighting for human rights and a better tomorrow.
Hello, Jesse Sherborne, 537 North Hanover Street. Well, I'd like to say thank you to my fellow Air Force veteran for coming out to speak. I don't have I'd like to speak in support of the ordinance, though, actually. Um, I think it is important to affirm the values that we already stand on. And those values are actually the law of our community. They are the dominant law of the land here. And it's not unnormal. It's not unnormal to reaffirm the things that we have already set into place. Even married couples occasionally need to reaffirm their vows. And I don't have too much more to say, um, except that I really love this community, and I want to end because I was raised Catholic and my dad is a priest. I would like to end on a verse from the Bible that I really believe in. It's from the book of Leviticus. It says, "Do not mistreat foreigners living in your country, but treat them just as you treat your own citizens. Love your foreigners as you love yourselves, because you were foreigners one time in Egypt. I am the Lord your God."
Hi, my name is Amanda Howard. I live at 1540 Holly Pike in Carlisle, and it seems like everyone starts the conversation with how much they love it here. And I've lived here my entire life, and I work at my beloved high school. I'm fully invested in this town. I love it. I was downtown last week at the Festival of the Arts, and they had these beautiful little paintings of like the Molly picture, the Hamilton. It actually made me tear up because I really love our town. I often joke I should be mayor. I often don't know I should run. So, but I'm sitting back there, and it's really I'm confused because I hear you saying that there's not really any difference, and this isn't going to be any different. And I know this might not be the appropriate time, but if you could just explain at some point about how different this is, because if you're saying how it's not going to change, then why are we even having this ordinance? I'm sort of wondering what, if you could spell out the differences are, why we are even having this ordinance. And to the point about our leaders who we elected, their wives being immigrants. They actually were legal immigrants. They weren't illegal immigrants. So there's not a country in the world that you can sneak into and no one does anything. That's not a thing anywhere. And I fully support people who come here legally and want to stay. I'm not saying thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Wesley Rao, 247 West Willow Street. I was also raised here, also an Air Force veteran. Really briefly, I just want to say I understand we're talking about people and people's lives, but we are talking about a highly contentious issue. And regardless of what the ordinance actually does, it does make a statement, and I feel it is worth extra time. If not just to prevent the other side from feeling squeezed by this. And I would also just like to say that, being concerned about the values and intentions of those that we do invite into our home, I mean, it's not us trying to be monstrous here. It's just trying to be rational. It's just trying to ensure that the people that already live here, that those that are vulnerable here are not taken advantage of. That's all it is. We're not trying to be monsters here. Thank you.
Eric Smith. I live at 121 Southeast Street. You've heard me talk about this plenty, so I'm mostly just here to read a statement that a friend sent me because they couldn't attend tonight. But before I get there, I just want to say thanks for everything you're already doing, especially number 2 from the budget and finance agenda earlier. was surprised to see that contract, but really excited. It's yet another reason to be proud of this town and this council that there's always things I don't even know that are going on that I can support so wholeheartedly and without even expecting them. So I'm really glad that we've managed to take that action. I also just want to let folks know in terms of timing, since I know we haven't all been able to be engaged the whole time, that this proposal, an initial draft of it was introduced, I believe, in March, if not then in April. It was under review for several months with our legal counsel, and was then, this discussion we're having now is first brought up at last month's Borough meeting, which made it clear that more time and discussion was necessary to make sure everyone's voices were heard. That's why it was the primary topic at last week's workshop meeting, and also even if a vote were made now to advertise an ordinance tonight, that is why Carlisle's charter requires that ordinances be advertised for 10 days before they can be approved by the council. So we would also have further discussion on that. But this has been an ongoing effort, and I'm really grateful to everyone who has engaged with the civil process for it at every step. Whether this is your first night or you can't count how many of these meetings you've been to, I'm really grateful for everybody to come and share their opinions. So the rest of what I have to say is on behalf of my friend Brian McDermott, who had dad duty tonight, but sent this statement ahead for me to read on his behalf. So this is all Brian's words, and he lives at 343 G Street. I previously thought that establishing an ordinance versus a resolution would put a target on Carlisle for when the Trump regime starts filtering down from large and mid-sized cities in its crusade to rid the nation of people it deems undesirable. Because the situation in this country is evolving rapidly, I have changed my view. I now think a resolution would be performative and an ordinance concrete and necessary. In the past weeks, we have seen the regime put local and state police in Illinois and Oregon in an unfortunate position to have to defend the extra-legal, fascistic actions of DHS at large. Local police exist to protect their communities, not rout out like vermin people the rogue federal regime deems undesirable. Pass the ordinance, bind the borough police to do the right thing, which is protect the citizens of this town. Cooperating with DHS thugs when they inevitably and apparently already have come to town is not protection, it's collaboration. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Price. I live at 778 West South Street here in the borough of Carlisle. I rise in support of the proposed ordinance. Ours is a community where neighbors take care of each other and look out for one another. We are a people that strive to learn from our history, both the good and the bad. We are a people that embrace tolerance and love for humanity. And we are not by any stretch perfect. I think each of us tries our best to improve ourselves. And we also try to make our community more welcoming to others, regardless of the circumstance of their birth or the place of their birth. I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. My wife was born in Ankara, Turkey. And the most precious thing to us today is our daughter. And she was born here in this community. And as new parents, we tend to like to think that we're going to teach her things about what we learned growing up where we did. And every day, more and more, she teaches me about this place and the very nice and wonderful good things about this place. And this ordinance is an example of that. It is an affirmation of our values. It's an affirmation of our community. It's a responsible measure, and I would encourage all of you to vote for this measure. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Margaret Froelich. I live at 238 West Pomfret Street. In talking with neighbors and friends about this ordinance, those who were in favor, they were still worried that this ordinance would make Carlisle a target. We've heard this evening about the idea of retaliation. And actually, grassroots organizations nationally that are large, that support immigrants, say the opposite, that it does in fact create safer environments. I believe this ordinance is a true exercise in our liberty. And as Benjamin Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Some will have read in the news that a federal judge ruled, I think it was just yesterday, that many ICE arrests in Chicago were illegal. We are not alone in this ordinance. In fact, I believe we are late. As has been indicated by others who have spoken tonight, we are not the first to consider adopting such an ordinance. No one's safety would be jeopardized by this. Local police would still cooperate with ICE under proper binding court order as stated in the ordinance itself. The ordinance will encourage immigrants. What will it do? This question has been raised. Well, what would it do then? The ordinance will encourage immigrants to participate more fully in civil life, feel comfortable seeking city services, reporting crime themselves should they need to do so, use healthcare and social services. This ordinance delivers on our exercise in liberty and will help ensure a lasting safety for all.
Hi, I'm Ann Geiger. I live at 40 Northside Court. My husband and I are actually new residents. Not too long ago, I served on the school board of a large school district in another state and recently served on the borough council of a small municipality in this region. And I understand how hard it is to balance the sometimes competing interests of your constituents, be good stewards of tax dollars, and reach consensus around difficult issues as you work together. I greatly appreciate your service. I think it's very important during this fraught time to ask you, as we should ask all of one another, to make decisions to live our lives based on our broadly held values. Among those values are to treat each other as we would want to be treated and to protect the most vulnerable among us. That means those who have been here a long time and those who are new, those whose language and culture are familiar and those whose language and culture are not, those who have means and those who don't. My understanding is, according to Justice Antonin Scalia, writing in Prince versus United States in 1997, the 10th Amendment creates an anti-commandeering doctrine. Quote, the federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems nor command the state's officers or those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. In essence, the anti-commandeering doctrine says that the federal government cannot require states or municipalities to directly carry out or enforce federal enforcement policies, including immigration law. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that this resolution and this ordinance do not conflict with this doctrine that is rooted in federalism. I believe they reinforce it. I ask that you choose to support or to adopt this ordinance, since it would codify our broadly shared value to serve and protect each other. As another resident said, the Borough Code, our laws reflect our values, and this would indeed do that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Wagner of 267 Westwood Street. Many folks in this fine town have lived here their whole lives, have seen the town and its people take on many changes and many challenges. I am a Carlisle transplant of 7 years, still digging deep into the soil to plant my roots here. I live here with my wife and my son. To say we love it here is quite the understatement. We belong here. I have not always felt such a sense of belonging or community in my life. I grew up in a rural town in Pennsylvania that makes Carlisle feel urban. In my hometown, if you weren't already kin, you would become kin. And if you hain't Dutch, you hain't much. I am born of patriot blood, risked by my immigrant ancestor who fought in the American Revolution. I am a proud member of the Sons of the American Revolution Fort Halifax chapter. I am a man of the cloth, serving as minister in a church congregation down the road from here. I can tell you that they are zealous and fervent in their faith, though perhaps quite senior to many of us here tonight. I love the church I serve. It is not that our theology lines up 100%. It is not that our political beliefs line up 100%, but rather that we share a space and we share a time, and we share our care for one another and look to do good by each other. I would like to speak about doing good by each other now as we have this opportunity to do so. It is interesting, I think, and speaks to something that I am so far the only one who is going to tell a personal story of a personal interaction in this town. In a town that feels metropolitan to my country living hometown, I have come to know more neighbors and more friends in Carlisle than I have in my hometown and all the places I've lived combined. And that includes being involved in tens of churches and congregations, a national honors fraternity, and knowing how to call back the phrase, "we are." So let me just share this gem with you that happened just the other week. My 6-year-old son had a friend over to play. Spontaneously, they wanted lemonade, which led to an impromptu lemonade stand. It sold $48 worth of lemonade. We had 5 cups. My son drank one. Or rather, he poured himself a cup and drank one sip. That means that those kids raked in $48 from only 4 cups of lemonade. Our greatest benefactor was my son's first grade classmate, who happens to live on our street. As she was driving by, she recognized my son and decided to support his cause, which, to note, was just to have fun. Her father pulls over and hands us 2 $20 bills. I refused, of course, but he insisted. "Support the kids," he said. We were grateful. We are grateful. What you don't know is also what I don't know. Is he a citizen? Is he here legally? Will he stay here legally? Will we get to share time and space and the mutual joy of supporting each other's kids? Or will it become a matter of legality predicated on race and ethnicity that will ultimately separate us? Will his facial features be an issue for others such that it becomes a sad story? And furthermore, will my son's facial features become the cause of heartbreak as well? See, you can't see my son right now. He's not here. So you don't have the same information to make those judgment calls. A judgment call that is made in fractions of a second based on how one's genes are presented. So I urge all of you, especially this council, not to make this simply a matter of what is or what should be legal, but rather to consider this time and this space a shared one, a time and space in which welcome is not only extended, but also protected. This does not have to be a trolley problem in deciding what or whom to sacrifice. This is a critical time to do good by each other. I urge you to pass this ordinance. Support the kids, support the parents, support us all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holden Burkholder. I live at 60 West Pomfret Street. I too am going to share a personal story. Hello? Thank you. Forgive me if I seem unenthused or prematurely out of commission. At 3 p.m. today, I was threatened with a firearm. I was accused of tailgating someone's car. They leaned out their window and pointed the gun at me. I ducked and blocked my face with my hand as his wife drove away. This is not normal circumstance, yet has become more and more common over the past few years. More threats, more anger, and less defiance to the despair. This ordinance aims to do nothing more than make it clear our collective belief that our community should feel united and safe under the most important institution that is bestowed upon the very few fortunate enough to live in a free democracy. That is the rule of law. I would like to end on another story. It was mentioned of a priest who was shot just not too long ago. Gregory Gardon was shot on January 9th in 1905 in St. Petersburg, Russia. He was fighting to support the needs of peasants across the entirety of the Tsardom. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carl Mall. I live at 804 Hillside Drive. For those who don't know, I'm the son of Mary Mall, who passed away several weeks ago and worked for 20 years at St. Patrick's Church, worked on several interfaith councils around town, worked with uncountable nonprofits and charities in the area, and most recently worked as an admin at the Africana Studies Department at Dickinson. At her funeral several weeks ago at St. Patrick's Church, the following verse from Matthew was chosen, the parable of the sheep and the goats. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And truly, I tell you, whatever you did not do for the least of these, you did not do for me. I grew up Catholic. Catholic social justice teaching informed a great part of my outlook and worldview, and it was a deep part of my Carlisle experience growing up. I've since become a Quaker, and if we're going to ask ourselves what would the founders think, I think we need to ask what would the founders of Pennsylvania think, who were Quakers, if we're all going to actually sit and remember our Pennsylvania history here. Quaker teaching on any national Quaker group anywhere would actively support this ordinance. Anyone from across Catholic teaching, certainly the last two popes would be giving overwhelming support for for this ordinance. So outside of a religious and moral perspective, going back to a practical side, I've lived in sanctuary cities most of my adult life. I attended college outside of Philadelphia at Haverford College. I know earlier today, Carlisle was compared as not Philadelphia, but a lot of what I love in Philadelphia is seen here in Carlisle. A lot of when I lived in San Francisco is what I see here in Carlisle. A lot of what I saw in Manhattan and Brooklyn that I lived in for many years are seen here in Carlisle. I fundamentally did not feel unsafe in sanctuary cities, and in fact, plenty of evidence goes to support that immigrant places with laws like sanctuary cities increase immigrant community and police safety and interaction over time. Apologies, I just lost my stats that I hear. And unfortunately, these only talk about, a lot of these studies are about Latino communities, but they were, of course, impact all immigrant communities that we have, many immigrant communities here in Carlisle. One article in Britannica found that Latinos have a 12% higher probability of reporting violent crime victimization to law enforcement after a sanctuary city is implemented. This increased reporting is crucial for law enforcement to address and prevent crime effectively. On average, there are, according to the Center for American Progress, on average, there are 35.5 fewer crimes committed per 10,000 people in sanctuary counties compared to non-sanctuary counties. This trend holds true across various types of communities, from large metropolitan areas to rural counties. One thing that I've seen over my time living in cities growing up from Carlisle and having communications is that fundamentally people don't understand crime reporting. In a city like, for example, New York, where you have millions and millions of people, the absolutely infinitesimally small number of crimes that are committed allow really big headlines to say crimes went up by 20% 1 month. Crimes are so low when you talk about small numbers per million people. Fundamentally, people feel safe in these cities. People feel safe that they can talk to their police in these cities, with some exceptions. But more importantly, immigrant communities feel that they can actually successfully talk to police about crime in their communities much more effectively when they're not afraid of being questioned about papers and the general tenor of what policing looks like in this country right now.
Hi, I'm Angela Smith. I live at 126 Southwest Street, and I'd just like to thank everybody here. I'm just so proud of all of you for the all the values you expressed. The young man who mentioned Leviticus, and Carl, and everybody else. I think that we have a community of people here who really do value the dignity of the person, no matter where we're from. And almost all of us are immigrants of some generation. I'm fourth generation. Everybody's some generation. So I really, I really just have a logistical question. I do really appreciate the values behind this. I'm also Catholic, and Catholic social teaching, heavily informs my values. And like so many of you, I'm heartbroken to see the things that immigrants are going through, and everyone who's trying to help them. But really, I just have a logistical question about the ordinance, and that is, I'm wondering who decides whether a provision has been broken, and then what is the penalty of it if it's broken? Like how would it be enforced? And that's not, it's not great. It's not a state. Again, I agree with the values. I'm just wondering about that particular question. How would it be enforced? Who decides if a provision's broken, and what would the penalty be? And thanks for everybody for just being such a welcoming community and caring about the human dignity of every person.
Thank you. It would be, just to answer that question, if a would apply to borough employees, so there would be the potential disciplinary action for violation of a borough ordinance, and then the borough manager is in charge of borough staff. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you certainly still had 5 minutes of time.
That does actually that's really helpful. I guess I'm just curious about if you have two people having an interaction, is somebody watching them? Is there some sort of who would be the arbiter of, let's say one person says that the interaction happened this way, the other person says it happened this way. Well, who is the arbiter who decides which one is correct? And then what would the penalties be for somebody who had broken the ordinance?
Sure, it's a disciplinary action, so it would be, as any other disciplinary action would be determined. Different for uniformed officers. There are different rules that apply. There's statutory structure that applies specifically for our uniformed officers versus our non-uniformed officers. But at the end of the day, I guess the borough manager would have to discuss how she approaches disciplinary actions on behalf of the borough, but it's you make a determination based on the facts that are before you. I'm not sure we can kind of go through hypotheticals here because it's going to be dependent upon the facts that would be before the borough manager under a particular incident.
Well, is there any sort of codified, this happened, well, I understand that general idea, but I'm just wondering who's the actual person who decides if two people are disagreeing about what happened, who's the actual person who decides what the truth is? And then my second question is there any sort of codified, if this violation occurs, this is the penalty, or is that just a judgment call based on that person who decides, or that group of people who decide which person was right?
No, yeah. Again, so our home rule charter places the borough manager as the authority over borough staff. So that at the end of the day, it's the borough manager's responsibility for disciplinary action. So that the borough manager makes those determinations.
Okay, so the borough manager would decide everything, including if there's a dispute, which person is considered correct, and also what the penalty is, and there's nothing codified, it's just judgment call from the
No different than any other personnel disciplinary action. Correct.
Okay, thanks. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Good evening, Mary Smith, 126 Southwest Street. I just wanted to add, Carl talked about how we're Quaker roots, Quaker history. So if we're looking at Carlisle history before and what we want to be known as for our history later, I would remind everybody of our acts in the Carlisle Indian Industrial School and how we took homes away from people here and forced assimilation to those that came before us. So if we don't really like to harp on that history, we really like to harp on the more exciting, maybe good history that we have, but just think back to now, 100 years later, when people are looking at Carlisle's history and not passing this ordinance or resolution, the discussions we have, looking back on it in the same vein of thinking, Carlisle's not a very safe town for others or actually hasn't supported people. So I just wanted to remind you of some other Carlisle history we had and we should think about when we're choosing ordinances on how we should treat others. Thanks.
Kate Mellon, I was just curious about the repercussions you mentioned for Carlisle Borough, or that the borough potentially faces if we do enact this ordinance.
I'm sorry, could you give your name and address, please?
Jessica?
Yeah, you need to give for public comment, we need full name and address like everyone else has given.
My full name is Jessica Smith. It's just a question. I don't have any comments. I just have questions.
Okay. Well, this is the time for public comment. Of course, Councilor Mellon can answer the question if need be, but it's time for us to hear public comment. Although I did just answer some questions about the ordinance. If Councilor Mellon wants to answer that question, feel free.
So you are free to go back and look at the September meeting where I did outline most of those. Most of the concerns that I have deal with potential retaliatory action by the federal government.
Retaliation, how? Through what means?
Again, you're welcome to go back and look at the September council meeting, and I outlined a lot of concerns that I had there. This is really a time for public comment, not question and answer.
Okay, then I live at 262 West North Street. Jessica Smith is my name. And my comment would be, I'm not understanding what the specific pieces of the ordinance are that make us vulnerable to concrete retaliatory action from the federal government. I'm not sure that you also have a specific answer to that question. My comment is that it seems you're not answering that question. I just am wondering about specific mechanisms. So what threat is the borough under if this ordinance is enacted? And I guess that question arises out of thinking there isn't a specific concern and that it's quite broad and vague.
I think I've already answered that question. Please go back and review the recording of the September
Do
meeting.
you remember what your answer was? Maybe you could just share it
Okay,
now.
but as I said, this is a time for public comment. We're not going to get into inquisition. So,
It's
Council
not an inquisition. It's just a question about specifics.
yeah, inquisition is another way of saying questioning. The it, this you can provide.
Are we going to lose funding? Is that the concern?
You can
Kate
provide.
Mellon,
Excuse
is
me.
the concern losing funding?
You have 5 minutes to say whatever you want when the 5 minutes is up.
Is this
Council
is what I
Mellon
want
wishes
to
answer.
say.
Go ahead.
Are we concerned about losing funding? You can treat these as rhetorical questions if you don't want to answer them. Are you concerned about losing specific funding for specific programming in the borough? If so, I would wonder what programming. Are you worried about losing police funding in the borough? And if so, I wonder what mechanism. We've seen an increase in police funding in this borough every single year. I'm just trying to sort of wonder what other concerns there might be specifically. If it's not funding, maybe, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. I wish that you could help me out here with what potential concerns might be. And also just like what those mechanisms the federal government would use to enact that retaliation. That would also be a rhetorical question I would have for council. I'm just gonna stand here a minute and see if I could come up with any other tangible reason, Kate Mellon, that you might be opposed to the ordinance. I'm just gonna think for a second. Yeah, I'm just not aware of what that function might look like or how the borough might be retaliated against. So just brainstorming over here, just by myself, wondering. Anything coming to mind?
As I said, this is not a question and answer period, and your time is now up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Pia Mancini. I know some of you guys, so hello. I just have a quick question about the address. I don't know. I live in a dorm at Dickinson. Should I just give you my mailing address? Okay, 27 North College Street, hub number 1549. Thank you. So I just wanted to start by sharing. I'm from New York City. I'm a student at Dickinson College. I study Latin American Caribbean Studies and Environmental Studies. I'm an intern for the Popel-Shaw Center for Race and Ethnicity. I'm also on the Latin American and Caribbean Club. I'm a member of that club. I'm a member of Amnesty International. And I'm also on the advisory board for the Center for Future of Native Peoples. And honestly, I wanted to come today because I was really interested in talking about this topic, and surprisingly, you guys were. But I guess not so surprisingly. But I just wanted to add a bit about myself and why I think that, this ordinance is really important. My mom is from Venezuela, which is a country that is facing a lot of, or I guess the people from our country are facing a lot of retaliation from the U.S. government right now. We've had people been deported, against Supreme Court orders, to El Salvador. And yeah, I just think that, my mother came to this country to study, and she was documented, legal, got into FIT. But if it was today, I don't think that I would, if I was to be trying to do the same thing, coming here and studying here, I would have had the same ease. And I think it's a really big problem that, a lot of people from Venezuela and also so many other countries, face economic hardship and are coming to this country seeking asylum and just want to go about their lives living here, and contributing to the economy, contributing to like our school system, enriching every aspect of our lives here. I have many friends that come from families that were undocumented, and they've gone through the legal processes of becoming citizens. And I think that we just have the responsibility to continue to help people do that and to make sure that our police agents are not interacting and supporting ICE. When it comes to thinking about Dickinson, I think it's really scary that our DPS is deputized and like technically has the keys to our rooms, and like if they were to abide by everything that I said, then with certain, I don't know, like just given that there's a lot of illegal actions that the department is taking, it could result in students being forcibly evicted and put in detention centers. Like this could go much further than what we are seeing right now, and I just think that we do have a responsibility to just make the ordinance happen. I understand like there's democratic processes, but this is a democratic process. This is a part of that. We have ordinances for a reason, and I feel like going back to what somebody else was saying about like this town not always being safe for everybody, it's not uncommon that students will be, shouted at while they're just crossing the street, by people saying the N-word, or people calling them slurs, or people calling them wetbacks. Like, it is not, we don't necessarily always live in a harmonious town, and I think that we need to do a lot of work to make sure that people can feel safe here. This is a really important action to ensure that people can feel that way and can have the protection that they need from the government, from our local government, because we are in a state where, the thing that is different about right now is that these raids are happening left and right. They're happening on the streets. People are getting dragged out of their places of work. People are getting dragged off the street and thrown into, these unmarked vehicles with masks. Like, I think it's just really scary. I also studied abroad in Argentina, where there was a dictatorship where 30,000 people went missing. The same abductions in the middle of the night, the same abductions in the middle of the street happened there. Where was the local government to do something like this, the ordinance? We need to be a part of this right now. We are supposed to be a good agent of history to protect people who really need it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayana Gudama. I live at 155 East North Street, and I, like many of us, am a taxpayer and a voter in Carlisle, and I want to highlight another aspect of this conversation that hasn't been brought up yet, which would be the additional strain on additional services and resources that we might see if we see an increase in ICE activity in Carlisle. CYS has seen a dramatic increase in the number of children in foster and dependency services since ICE engagement. A number of Americans, almost 6 million U.S. citizen children, have one or more undocumented parents, and if they are subjected to deportation, those children will be wards of the state. Those children will be in services in this county, in this borough, unable to attend school while they're finding foster placements, disrupting their lives as they see their parents taken away from them. And we'll see a lot of increase in the kinds of services that CARES will need to be involved in, as we see homelessness on the rise in ICE involvement. Additionally, cities that have seen an increase in ICE deportations have seen up to a 22% increase in absenteeism in school attendance. So people are scared. They're holding their children home from school, even if they are citizens, because they're afraid that they will be racially profiled, or that will be the bait that brings a parent out from wherever it is that they've found sanctuary. And I don't want to see an additional strain on the resources in this borough. I live right next to the closed roundabout. I am absolutely thrilled that we're doing something about that intersection. I think it's been a nightmare for a very long time. And I'm grateful that, while it sucks that my street is full of trucks right now, that it's going to be for the better and for the future of this borough. That's all that I want. That's all I'm asking for with this ordinance. I want peace and tranquility for our people. I want children to feel safe to go to school. I don't want to see additional resources spent on foster placements, on healthcare needs for children whose parents were deported and they are U.S. citizens, so they will remain here unsupported. And additionally, I just want people to feel welcome here like I have felt welcomed since I moved here. So thank you.
Anyone else? And Stephanie, do we have anybody who would like to speak by Zoom? Okay, thank you. Everybody showed up. Okay. There's nothing further than a public comment. I'll close the public comment period. And any comments, thoughts from members of council?
Yeah. So I would like to clarify my statements. I will first of all say that I just want to not set the precedent that the public comment period is meant to be some sort of public debate with council, but I'm happy to answer now. So my reasonings for fearing retaliation from the federal government there are a couple of main reasons. We rely on a great deal of government funding here at this borough to do road work. In fact, the roundabout that was just referenced is in part due to some federal dollars. We also rely on federal funding we're working on trying to get a grant to make improvements to our water system, which is a crucial service for the entire borough and all of our citizens. We have seen in the past the federal government both refusing to give grants to people that are not towing the party line at the moment and freezing previously allocated funding. I fear that as the bare minimum of potential retaliation to the borough. But my biggest concern is that by passing this ordinance, we will draw even more attention to this borough. And I've heard the argument by many of you that you feel that passing this ordinance will give a further layer of protection to our most vulnerable citizens, and it will prevent ICE from coming to this borough. I disagree with you. I believe the exact opposite. I believe that this will actually cause the government to send targeted enforcement raids to this borough. I beg your pardon, I am speaking. If ICE comes to this community, there is not a whole lot the police department can do about it, whether we pass this ordinance or not. We've seen in the city of Chicago that there are over 300 representatives of ICE staged from Naval Station Great Lakes to launch targeted enforcement raids throughout the city. If ICE decides to put a force at the Carlisle barracks, there's nothing we can do to stop it. I believe it is much more likely for that to happen if we pass the ordinance, and I'm not willing to put our vulnerable immigrants at greater risk by doing that. That's my reasoning.
Any other members of council wish to speak on this? Go ahead.
Sorry, did you want to go ahead? Yeah, I'm not gonna. I think I've spoken a couple of times, and so I'm not going to. And most of you, if you've been here, you've heard me, so you know my thoughts. And if you've been in Carlisle for a while, you've heard me speak on other issues. I'm very vocal. That's never been a problem for me. But what I will say is that I am thanking all of you for coming here, not just tonight, but for the other nights that you've been here to participate in these conversations. This isn't an easy thing for any of us to do. It really isn't. But it is also important that we hear from you all because, and I've said this a dozen times as well, we are also a part of the community. We are not outside of it. And we are affected by the very same things that you all are affected by. So it's important that we hear from you and you be vocal with us just as I try to be on issues that are important to me. So I just wanted to say thank you for you all showing up.
Yeah, so I just firstly I want to say that I appreciate Councillor Mellon's caution in all this, and I just want to remind everybody here that she cares for this community just as much as we all do up here, just as much as any of us up here. And then I also want to sort of remind people that there are many ways in which a person can become undocumented. They could have been brought here as an infant or a child. They may have come here following the rules, seeking asylum, and as we have seen here, had their status revoked out from under them while they are here. And then I also sort of want to remind us that, for those of you who would refer to the undocumented as illegal, I would remind you that there are once many institutions that were actually legal in this country, and some of them which still are. Child marriage was once legal and still is in some states. Discrimination against women, people of color, people based off who they love. Slavery was once a legal institution in this country, and that we all, as several of you have reminded us, exist on unceded lands here that were stolen legally. So I just kind of I think for those of us who really think of this like hard and fast definition of what's legal and what's not, the law is flexible, and sometimes it flexes in the wrong direction.
Okay. I was going to make sure Council Roos has an opportunity too,
right,
so we don't forget about it. Jackie, would you like to offer anything on this? I know you've spoken a couple of times before on it.
I know what my preference is and how I'm going to vote, so I'm all good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor Landis.
Yeah, I don't really have to say much. I've said, I think everything I need to say before. I'm for voting for the ordinance. So I would, if out of the two to choose, I would like to see how that goes with our council vote.
First, I just want to say I appreciate your comments, Councilor Mellon, and your sharing them. Likewise, I wanted to, in follow-up to the meeting we had last month, just kind of reiterate my appreciation for your comments, Councilor Perry, which were negatively called out as well. So I appreciate those too. I do want to just take a moment to step back. I think a lot of the discussion on this becomes rather nebulous, and I think it's important to look at the text of the ordinance or resolution that we're discussing, as well as the statement the council adopted. If you're looking at the text of the ordinance or, again, resolution, sections 4 and section 5 are where the crux of it are at. And if you review the provisions there, as the mayor alluded to earlier, essentially what is in these documents is existing borough policy. So in large part, what this would be doing is codifying what is existing borough policy. I think that is important to keep in mind as we're discussing this. I think it's helpful to, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, all of these documents are available online. I don't know if we have copies here or not, but I would encourage you to read through them and kind of compare what is in the text of these with the statement outlining existing borough policy and what the borough already does. I think that's important. I also think it's important to recognize, or at least wanted to share, that earlier in the year, the Department of Homeland Security posted a list of municipalities throughout the country that the administration deemed sanctuary municipalities. As the mayor alluded to, again, that's a fairly amorphous statement that isn't clearly defined. And I think it's worth noting that a number of municipalities throughout the country that were on that list had never passed an ordinance or a resolution of this nature or issued a statement. So I think that is important to recognize as well. But to that end, I personally am in favor of moving forward with either a resolution or drafting and advertising an ordinance for us to vote on at the future meeting.
Okay. Now, I'll thank everybody for their comments this evening. I've received a number of emails, as I know. I think all of council was copied on most, if not all of them. So we've received a number of emails and other communications on this issue. So thank you all for coming out tonight to offer your comment. Especially thank you for the citation to Prince. That brought back constitutional law down the street, and Justice Scalia, who oftentimes I disagreed with, but I do like that opinion. So thank you for raising that case. Justice Scalia, who similar to my mother's family, his family came from Italy. My family is Calabrese. Just a few generations ago, came to this country, and most of them arrived and settled in Ambler, Pennsylvania, a couple hours east of here, and were victims of prejudice. My great grandmother's house had bricks thrown through her windows, and so issues go on and on in this country and throughout this world, throughout humanity. So I think everybody, at least here tonight, has the humanity of people centered. At least I hope so. And I'm going to vote to move this ordinance forward for consideration in November. If there's a motion to do so.
I'll second that motion.
I didn't make the motion. You're making.
Oh, did we need to make a motion? Sorry.
I mostly just call balls and strikes here, unless it's my committee. So.
I'll make a motion to draft and advertise our the Borough of Carlisle Community Trust and Local Autonomy ordinance. I've got the wrong one here. Sorry.
Are you trying to find the full?
Yeah, sorry. I realized I was looking at the resolution and not the ordinance.
It's at the bottom.
Oh. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Susan. I guess so. I would make a motion to direct the borough solicitor to draft and advertise an ordinance to uphold community trust, ensure the efficient use of borough resources for local priorities, and affirm the borough's home rule authority in accordance with the borough charter and strategic plan. Said ordinance would be considered for enactment at the regularly scheduled November 13th, 2025 council meeting, or at a later council meeting selected by council. Oh wait, yeah.
Council Shiles makes a motion to direct the borough solicitor to draft and advertise the Carlisle Community Trust and Local Autonomy Ordinance, and to consider it for enactment at the meeting on November 13th, or at a later council meeting selected by council. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Council Perry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
And the motion carries 6-1. And I don't want to forget, we always have two opportunities of public comment, and I flipped it around, and with all that discussion, if there are any other issues of borough government that anybody would like to speak on, please come on up to the podium. By now you know the drill.
Wait, does new business come after?
I flipped it around.
think he has a report from council.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay, nothing. Okay. Councilor Childs, you had something you'd like to report on?
Sure. So I just this is I have a draft resolution here for us to participate in the Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative. Like I could just read the ordinance really quickly or kind of discuss it if anybody has any questions. So it basically would I'll just read it. Whereas the borough has explored opt-out community choice aggregation (CCA), which would automatically offer clean electricity supply to all residents unless the residents opted out, whereas the Public Utility Commission has not authorized the borough opt-out CCA programs, whereas the PUC authorization depends on a lengthy appeal process which is underway. Whereas residential electricity supply prices have risen and are projected to further rise, the council desires to act now to provide residents with access to cost-effective, environmentally responsible, renewable electricity supply. Consumers are not able to negotiate advantageous electricity supply contracts, whereas the borough understands the benefit of collective purchase of electricity. The borough seeks to offer residents the benefits of collective electricity purchasing. The Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative, or PEPC, an informal group of boroughs, has informed to advance clean energy progress. Each borough will designate a volunteer PEPC representative who will report to borough leadership on proposed actions and obtain borough consent to participate in the RFP process. The PEPC will convene for at least 2 sessions to outline specific objectives and requests for proposals for residential electricity supply contracts. And then the borough will designate a representative for the Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative. The borough representative will invite the solicitor to participate and will report on PEPC recommended actions to council and to the council by December 1st, 2025. So we're a little late to this, but I was hoping that we could address this at a later meeting. Does anybody have any questions about it?
Any questions? And Councilor Childs, there are some meetings that may take place before we can move formally on this. I'm sure no one has any objection if you attend those meetings, since this has been an important issue to you. So feel free to do so, and then we'll formalize it down the line. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
In our consent agenda, I didn't pull it out, but we did change some Halloween parade information. Correct? I think we should announce that. I think it's very important. I think do one of you want to give some information, Andrea, or? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, I can do it, but it's important.
Yes, we are changed. The parade route will be changed due to some road work that is set to be done on South Hanover Street. So the staging and the everything will be done, continue to be done at Biddle Mission Park. It'll go up North Street, turn on North Hanover Street, but then when you get to the square, the parade will go down West High Street instead of going down South Hanover Street. So it will turn on to East or West High Street, and then it will end at West Street, and then the parade will disband on North and South West Streets. So that'll be a change for this year, because South Hanover Street will be closed starting sometime in mid-October. What was that? So, and this is the parade route here, so you can see. And then that bold square there, That's just where that's the square, and then then it says finished, and then the parade will disband on Southwest Street and Northwest Street.
Thank you, Andrew. I was sitting in assessment hearings the other day, and people were asking me when the parade is. So
Yeah, and
in the middle of real estate assessment hearings, the most important topic was when is the Halloween parade?
Yeah, and I didn't even say the Halloween parade is Wednesday, October 22nd.
But
So it starts at 7:00.
Like we're glossing over a very important reason why this Halloween parade has to be moved.
We're all very excited about
We're very excited about why it has to get moved, and that is because who wants to announce it? Who wants to take ownership of this one? Because it's not us, actually. It's PennDOT.
But is it?
It is
I mean,
us.
it's the people.
It's actually all of you, because you complained so much about South Hanover Street. They're going to pave it.
I expected more.
They're gonna pave South Hanover Street.
It'll be a big hit on social media.
It'll be a big hit. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Carlisle Police Department. Last week, I attended the Pennsylvania Municipal League Conference, which is a annual conference of boroughs, townships, municipalities all over the state of Pennsylvania. They have an award breakfast every year at this conference, and each year, among the awards that they give one award for the entire state, Commonwealth, for distinguished civil service. And this year's award winner in the entire Commonwealth was the Carlisle Police Department for the actions that they took surrounding honorary officer Connor Taverna. So, Chief, do you want to remind everyone a little bit of his story? Would you like me to? So Connor was, I believe, 5 or 6 years old when he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He had always wanted to be, there he is. Oh, isn't he a sweetie? He wanted to be a police officer. So Steph, do you have the swearing in picture up there too? Yeah. So the police department, and there's Chief in his uniform, and there's the mayor. They had an official swearing in ceremony for young Connor to make him an honorary member of the Carlisle Police Department. And over the next year, almost 2 years, they accompanied Connor on a number of adventures, made a lot of things happen for him. When he was too sick to come out, they organized drive-bys of all the emergency services personnel in the county, I think, to drive by his house to let him know that he was loved. Took him to a Senators game. You got to see him meeting the senators there. And when he passed, a couple of the officers from our police department accompanied him and the family to the funeral parlor, and he was buried with a full police funeral. So it's wonderful to see in times where, we know that there can be in some communities a lot of distrust for the police, but we are so fortunate to have a police department that is so compassionate and cares so fully about our community. So congratulations, Chief, to the entire department.
Counselor, thank you very much, but that little kid gave us more than we gave him. This kid fought and showed more heart, and to see him trying, fighting, and to see officers get up out of their beds and get dressed when this kid died to go to the funeral home, not being paid, getting up and going, it was just incredible. So he did a lot for our organization and for our borough of Carlisle. And his parents were just wonderful people. I told his parents that early on, you guys did something right in raising this boy, because he just was so respectful and he loved dinosaurs. Corporal DeMartel was the liaison, and she figured this stuff out. I'm just so proud of the police department. I didn't want to talk, but I'm just so proud of these guys stepping forward and taking care of one of our youngest citizens, and it's just so cool. Thanks.
Councilor Stubbe, anything? Deputy Mayor, Councilor Perry, Councilor Shiles. No. Does the borough manager have anything for us?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'll skip. Oh, sure.
Deputy Mayor Landis wanted 3 emails to be part of the record. Do they need to be read to be part of the record?
No, I was just trying to make sure that I don't know if they were always forward or a lot of times they're CC'd. They don't. I don't know how we usually use like. We got emails. Council got emails, and I was just forwarding them along because sometimes they go to the borough manager. So I was just forwarding them to ensure that they were put into whatever place we put the emails. I don't actually know where the emails go, but
and typically, Patricia, you can confer with the borough solicitor, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. But how I recall this being is if they specifically ask that their statement be entered into the record, then you do so and you attach it to the meeting minutes if they're not present.
Okay.
Correct?
Correct. Okay. I don't think anybody asked.
I don't think they asked that, but we did hear and we read them and just trying to make sure everyone's heard.
There were numerous, and I tried to respond to everybody at least so they knew that it was received. So, anything else? Do you want to close this out? Does Mr. Pimentel have anything for us?
I guess just very brief, very brief. The college just wants everyone to know that its music and athletic events are open to the public, so please feel free to join by this upcoming weekend, November 5th through 7th. We have the homecoming game and parents weekend. It's going to be against Ursinus. Got to support the Red Devils, so I hope to see every single one of you there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we'll close out with that. Yep. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.